All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is Kelly Gluckman for an ongoing series concerning topics on HIV, brought to you by brightbod.com. We're going to silence the microphones for about 20 to 25 minutes while I give my presentation, and then I'll open up the floor for questions. Questions are highly encouraged. I will answer any and all questions to the best of my ability, or I will try to point you in a good direction. Just to let everybody know, these presentations are not meant to be medical advice. This is simply from my personal experience, just sharing what I know. My medical advice is to go get medical advice. So if you have any questions afterward that I didn't answer or something pops up, go ahead and go to brightbod.com and you can record yourself asking your question. Someone will come back in and answer it for you. And yeah, I'll get going right now. So today I'm going to be talking about common mistakes and misconceptions made by those who are newly diagnosed with HIV. I'm a part of a Facebook group online for people living with HIV, and I asked this question to the members of the group, and pretty much everybody said the same things. It was really interesting. So number one is thinking you're going to die soon. Everybody who gets HIV thinks that they're going to die soon. You're not going to die soon. You can live a long, healthy, happy life with HIV. But it's very easy to think that upon first diagnosis. The second thing that a lot of people make the mistake of doing is going into denial. Some people just don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to face it. It's not an easy diagnosis to come to terms with. This is a huge mistake that people make is going into denial. Either that or I talked about HIV denialism before. Reading into HIV denialism is also a huge mistake, and it's part of going into denial. The best thing to do is just to face this and move forward. Another misconception is thinking that your time on earth is limited, so you can't accomplish great things. If you get yourself on medication, again, you can live a long, healthy, happy, normal life, and you can accomplish anything and everything you want to. So reach for the stars and do whatever you want, because this is not something that has to hold you back. Another misconception is thinking you're going to be sick all the time. I do not get sick any more often than I normally do. You're not going to be sick all the time. It was really funny when I was first diagnosed. One of my jobs, I worked at the Cheesecake Factory, and one of my jobs was to put the cheesecakes, get the shipment of cheesecakes and then put them in the freezer. And I spent like hours in the freezer, like rearranging things, putting the newer stuff on the bottom, and there's like a rotation process. And after I got diagnosed, I was really scared to do that because I thought I was going to get sick. So I told the Cheesecake Factory that I couldn't put the cheesecakes away anymore. And I've talked to a lot of people, and that's a huge misconception. You're not going to be sick any more often than any other normal person. Another thing that people who are newly diagnosed think is that you are highly contagious. It's really easy to feel like a biohazard. I remember when I was first diagnosed, I said that I felt like a big bag of disease. And those feelings are totally normal, but it's just silly. I mean, the feelings are normal, but at the end of the day, it's not easy to give this to somebody else, especially when you're on medication. So you can share cups with someone, you can give people hugs, you can give people kisses, share drinks. You're not going to give this to somebody through sweat, through saliva, through skin-to-skin contact. It's just not going to happen. Another misconception is being scared of medication. When I was first diagnosed, I was really scared of medication. I was scared of the side effects. I was scared of having to take a pill every day. I was afraid of the cost. I've talked a bit about the cost of medication, and we're lucky in the U.S. to have medication subsidized, so it's very affordable. My side effects are negligible, if existent at all. I liked the little cocktail glass. I thought that was really funny because our medication is called a cocktail, but I only take 1 pill a day every day. Another thing is thinking that only rich people can live a long time with it, which is similar to the last one in being afraid of medication. But like I said, anyone living with HIV who has access to antiretroviral drugs and stays adherent to them can live a normal lifespan. You can live into your 80s, especially if you catch HIV as soon as possible. That's another caveat that I guess I should have mentioned is the sooner you catch your HIV diagnosis and the sooner you get on medication, doctors say the longer you can live and the more normal a life you can live. So, and I mean, if you do catch it late, you can still live a normal life. There might be more complications. A mistake that people make is not getting to a doctor as soon as possible, being afraid of the doctor. Doctors are there to help you. I chose a picture with all of them looking super nice and friendly. Go to a doctor. Another mistake, this is a huge mistake, is thinking that there's a cure that they're keeping from us. There is no cure for HIV. It's coming, I promise, but it's not here yet. Do not read into conspiracy theories. Do not read into cures. It simply doesn't exist, not yet. So like I said before, the best thing is just to face it and come to terms with it. And something else that people, another misconception is thinking that your sex life is over, and that, or that you're forced to find a partner who's also HIV positive. You can have sex with whoever you want. Just make sure you disclose first. And I always keep like links in my back pocket to send them about the partner study. You can Google the partner study. Send them a link to information and educate them about the realities of transmission and how difficult it actually is to do. Sometimes it's nice dating someone else who's HIV positive, but it's not necessary. Have sex with whoever you want. Just make sure you tell them first. Another thing that people think is that you're not worthy of love and respect. That's a huge one. People who are HIV positive, or we tend to stay with partners who don't treat us well because we think that we're not worthy of love. I was in a relationship with someone for 8 months who was verbally abusive, and he was an alcoholic, and he would use my diagnosis against me. And tell me that I'm a slut, that I'm a whore. And it's a very common thing that people do is staying with someone who doesn't treat you with respect because you don't feel like you're worthy. And also thinking that you're alone or that all your loved ones will abandon you. I've found a lot of acceptance with talking to family and talking to friends about what I'm going through. People are a lot more accepting and loving than you think they are. I was really scared of telling my mom, actually. My mom tends to be on the judgmental side, and she's always been kind of disappointed in me that I didn't go to college right out of high school. And so getting diagnosed with HIV was really scary to me because I thought that it would just add another reason for her to be disappointed in me. And her response was the opposite. She's been very loving and supportive, and I've talked to a lot of other people, and other people have told me the same. You're not alone, and you will find support if you reach out for it. And I think, yeah, this is the last thing. Another thing that people who are newly diagnosed do is thinking that this defines you. This gentleman got a tattoo on the back of his neck. I actually know, I know someone who got a tattoo on his forearm that says HIV positive. I have a friend who got a red ribbon tattoo on her hand. At the end of the day, you get to decide what amount of space this takes in your identity. I always say, I'm Kelly, I'm smart, I'm funny, I'm fun to be around. I'm an artist, I'm a daughter, I'm passionate, I'm driven, I'm all these things, and I'm living with HIV. So at the end of the day, you get to decide what part this plays in your life. I have a friend who lives in San Francisco who's HIV positive, and he doesn't disclose to anybody, and it doesn't really affect him. I asked him how often he thinks about it, and he says, nah, out of sight, out of mind. He takes his pill every day, and that's that. He has his family who knows, and his very close friends, and myself, and this doesn't really affect him very much at all. So we all have our own journey with this, and we all get to decide what we do with it. What time is it? 4:14. No, this is a short one. So I'm going to open up the floor for questions. This is me on social media. You can find me on social media. I'm sorry this was a short one. I could actually read some of the responses that I got on Facebook. I meant to include that in here, but I had class today and my day was freaking crazy. But I'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. And if you're curious about my Facebook post, I'm happy to read some responses.
Kelly?
Yes.
Is that that red ribbon, is that a significant, is that a symbol of the HIV, is that significant to the HIV?
Yeah,
Some significance to it.
Yeah, you know how like breast cancer has the pink ribbon, and I think there's a yellow ribbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so HIV is the red ribbon. Okay. HIV is our symbol for our cause, I guess, and like the color red is very significant. Okay. I think it's because of, blood is the main way of transmission. I think that's why we chose it. Yeah.
Okay. Here's my real question, though.
Yeah.
If a woman is diagnosed with HIV and then she subsequently gets pregnant, would the child automatically have to be on ARVs when it's born, or is there some kind of? I mean, assuming she's getting treatment.
Yeah, that's a great question. Pregnancy, okay. I'm not 100% sure about the process of pregnancy. It's my understanding that the woman is going to be on medication through her pregnancy, and then after she has her baby, the baby is on medication for a little while after birth as well. I don't know the specifics of pregnancy. It's kind of a soft spot for me.
Okay.
I haven't read into that much.
So, but then the child may not be automatically HIV positive then?
Right. Well, if you're under proper medical supervision, your baby is expected to not get HIV. It's very, very rare when I don't even think it happens anymore that a baby is HIV positive when proper medical supervision is employed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. You just can't breastfeed. There's no breastfeeding when you're HIV positive. Yeah.
Okay. Kelly, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You are so open and forthright with everything, giving us all the ins and outs, the good and the bad of this whole thing. Have you come across any male that would sit in your place and do that with us?
Sit in my a male. Yeah. Like a. Do you mind their sexual orientation?
No, just a man on a whole that would sit here and go through this HIV webinar with us on a weekly basis. Do you know of anyone that would do that? Because you seem to just go with the flow. You just do it as what's out there, what's to be done, what's not to be done. I'm just curious. Have you come across any male, any friends of yours, or in your that would do this?
Yeah. I have a lot of guy friends. I have some gay guy friends. I have a straight guy friend who's a public advocate. Straight guys are a lot more difficult, I've found. But yeah, I do know some men who would do something like this. Yeah. Mostly gay men.
Okay. I have another question before you go.
Yeah.
I know your cocktail is you're always showing us pills then. How about someone who just cannot swallow those pills? Is there anything out there? Because I know of individuals, grown adults that just cannot swallow a pill.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I think that there are some injectable forms of medication that are in clinical trials. I don't think that there are any medications that are not pills. That's a really good question. I'm going to ask my doctor about that. But as far as I know, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
When it comes to this is life or death, you're gonna have to swallow that damn pill.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
Kelly, why is it that most people who are diagnosed with a serious disease goes into denial?
That's a really good question. Because I could not see myself doing that. It doesn't make sense logically. People who go into denial are not thinking with their logical brain. They're thinking with their emotional brain, and they're responding to crisis. It's like the fight or flight response, I want to say. People are choosing flight instead of fight. And it's kind of the best answer I can come up with. It's
one other question. Why did you stay with your boyfriend for 8 months if he was treating you like that?
So this person, I met him, he was sitting at my table. I was a waitress, and he took me out to dinner, and he invited me to Costa Rica on our third date. And I was like, okay. So we went to Costa Rica, and he promised me the world. He made, all this money, and he told me I would never have to worry about health insurance ever again. And he was also very troubled. He was an alcoholic, and I saw the pain that he dealt with, and I felt for him. It was just like, I don't know.
Sorry to make you emotional.
No, that's okay. I look back and I'm like, why did I stay with him for 8 months? But at the end of the day, I was scared, and I liked him a lot, and he promised me the world, and I took the bait. And getting out of relationships is a lot more difficult than just walking away and never looking back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's a common mistake. I know a guy, he's in Colorado. He was with a woman when he got diagnosed, and he stayed with her for 2.5 years, and she cheated on him incessantly and verbally abused him. And she was bipolar, and he was there with her when she got diagnosed, but she refused to face it and just put him through the ringer. And it's very common. People who are newly diagnosed with HIV are very vulnerable, and we're really scared, and we feel like no one's going to love us. And it's something that's very common. It's not good, but it, it just is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Your presentation, adding those visuals, the pictures, and with the ideas, it just makes it, let me say, realistic. Just with the words and everything, it's out there, and you're talking about the different things that's happening, but just bringing in the pictures and showing an actual person that's maybe in denial or doing those things really brings it together for me anyway. So I just wanted to compliment you on your presentation and just adding those new things to
Thank
the
you.
webinar. Yeah, it makes
Thank
it
you so much.
interesting. Yeah, because some where you would maybe ask a question, but just looking at it, it's already self-explanatory. So I just wanted you to compliment you on that.
Thank you. I definitely choose my photos with a purpose.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it is working.
I appreciate that very much.
Do you ever miss a dose of medication?
I have missed doses of medication, yeah. The first time it happened, I was at work and I had my medicine in my pocket, my one pill, and it fell out of my pocket and into, like, I was at the Cheesecake Factory, it fell into like a vent underneath the bar. I freaked out. I started crying at work and I was hyperventilating and I was like, oh, like I've missed since then, like here and there I'll miss. But that first time freaked me out. But every once in a while I'll miss on accident, but not often. Like I'd say maybe like once every couple months.
Pick it up.
Say that again?
When you miss your medicine, do you have to make it up, or can you just
if you miss your medication, you want to take it as soon as possible, as soon as you remember, and then you just keep going like normal after that. If you forget and the next day comes around, you don't have to take 2 necessarily.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you don't necessarily have to take 2, but if your time is 5 p.m. and you miss it and you wake up at 3 in the morning, like, oh shoot, I missed my medication. You can take your medication right then and there. And then you just take 1 more at 5 the next day.
5 o'clock. Okay.
But if you miss it, if you miss it today and then 5 o'clock comes around the next day, you don't have to take 2.
I have a question, several
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
If I suspect that I've contracted HIV, but I don't really have a doctor, and I haven't really seen a doctor in many years, what should I do?
You mean like you had unprotected sex or you shared a needle kind of thing?
Either of those, yep.
Within 72 hours, you can get yourself to an emergency room. And they will be able to help you at the emergency room. Yeah, if you don't have a normal doctor, I would go to urgent care or the emergency room. And hopefully, you have Medicare or insurance or, something like that. But yeah, does that answer it? Sorry.
Another question. Do I have to endure months of agony and pain due to my doctor's prescribed medications?
If you're HIV positive, you mean, and your doctor gives you medication and you're experiencing side effects? Yeah? Okay. If you're experiencing horrific side effects from your HIV medication, talk to your doctor. You don't have to go through horrible side effects. There are so many different kinds of HIV medication that your doctor will be able to find one that works for you. and without the horrible side effects. I don't know if I got lucky, but my medication does not have side effects. And I've been shifted twice onto different medications, and I've been fine each time. But if your side effects are affecting your life or your ability to be productive, I would talk to my doctor and get switched onto a different medication.
What if my doctor does not want to switch my medications? What should I do then?
If your doctor does not want to switch your medication, it's probably for a good reason. I would ask why. You should be able to ask your doctor as many questions as you want. A doctor is there to help you. And if a doctor doesn't want to switch your medication, it might be because your HIV is resistant to certain drugs. But if you have a doctor that's not communicative or not open or not nice, then you're going to want to go to a new doctor. Hop on Google and find a new doctor.
And one other thing, you were saying that a misconception or a mistake people made is that when they're newly diagnosed, they fail to think big. They fail to believe that they can accomplish really great things. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
If someone who's newly diagnosed, or maybe not even newly diagnosed, but someone who's really having a difficult time handling HIV in their life, how can they begin to concentrate on something so grandiose, so big, like doing something great in his or her own life, when they're so worried about just getting through the day? What do you suggest?
That's a really good question. Thank you so much for that question, actually, because that's not something I thought about in doing this. The reason why I included that in there is because that's what I thought when I was first diagnosed, is that my time here is short. It's been shortened, and I'm not going to be able to accomplish things. But my best advice for someone who is really affected by this emotionally, and there's a depression, there's a special kind of depression that comes with an HIV diagnosis, and that's very common to feel like you can't get through the day. You have to take it one day at a time. You have to understand or come to the understanding that this isn't forever, and I don't know, because I've had those days where I was just so depressed I couldn't make it. I don't know. For me, I'm like, there's always gonna be a new day. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. It's a new day, and just understanding that everything's temporary. That's the biggest lesson I guess I've learned. I'm 30 years old. I'm talking like I'm like 75. But the biggest lesson I've learned in life is that everything is temporary. This is not going to last forever. Whatever happiness and joy you have isn't going to last forever. So enjoy it to its fullest. And this sadness and this depression and this struggle isn't going to last forever. So understand that you're going to get through it, and it's going to be okay at some point. And just, if you can't go day by day, then go hour by hour.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned 72 hours before. What is that 72 hours?
That's the window period where after a possible exposure to HIV. So let's say you have sex with someone who's HIV positive. 72 hours after that initial exposure is the window period to where you can, save yourself. If you start taking post-exposure prophylaxis, which I've talked about before, it's Truvada. It's the 1 pill a day every day for a month. If you start taking that within 72 hours, it will prevent HIV from attaching itself to your cells.
Okay. Okay.
So, Kelly, your
Yes.
your treatment is 1 pill a day.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the regimen. Okay.
Yeah, I have my pill bottle.
So, is that somewhat typical, or do you know?
Yeah, the sooner after your diagnosis, the easier your treatment options are gonna be. I mean, and these questions are really intricate because there's like 200 different strains of HIV, and when you get tested and diagnosed, they're going to do a phenotype test where they can see exactly which strain of HIV you've contracted and what medications work well with it. So different people's treatment options are going to be different depending on their HIV strain, depending on how soon after diagnosis or after infection they got diagnosed. But 1 pill a day every day is very common, just because they're so effective.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
I got one more question. If a relative or friend contracts HIV, what's the best way I can support him or her?
That's a good question. If a friend or relative gets diagnosed with HIV, what's the best way you can support them? Listen. The best way you can support someone who's HIV positive is just to listen. And just be there and ask, like they say, like, live your life by the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated. Someone told me something one time that I thought was really interesting is you should treat others as they show you they would like to be treated. So everybody needs different things emotionally. So calling and checking in and seeing how your friend is or your relative is, and just listening and being there, I guess.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'm like little Buddha over here. I'm just like regurgitating quotes from other people. But they're useful. I find them useful. I hope you do too. All right. It got a little quiet. So I'm assuming there are no more questions. It was a pleasure, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking time in your day. And I will look forward to another at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.